Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankara Vavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev. Bila, you can continue from where we left yesterday.
I think I just missed it, Brahmaraji, chapter 3. And one more request, I'll be able to do only for half an hour today, Brahmaraji.
That's fine.
I'm
No
really
problem.
sorry. Yeah.
No problem.
Today Nanaji was supposed to come, no?
That was yesterday.
Yesterday only. Oh.
We had yesterday's session, yeah. So you can start, Bila, in case there's any disturbance from your voice. Maybe Sima can continue for some time and I will come back. I will take over in half an hour's time. Yeah.
So was it verse 9 and 10?
I think we stopped at 8 yesterday. Yeah. So you can start from 9.
Since this shloka is important, Raga Dvesha, just start.
I suggest you chant, and if Suma is able to read, let her read. Okay?
Okay. Okay. That will be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
So, yeah. So this we will start from this Vihaya Kaman. Yeah. 8. I guess we had finished, right, Sumaji? Namo Nirahankara. Anyway, we will just browse through. Chapter 2, verse 71, and from Dwichatvarimshat, verse 8. Vihaya kaman sarvan puman sharati nispruhaha. Vihaya kamanya sarvan puman sharati nispruhaha. Nirmamo nirahankarassa shantimadhigacchati. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaicharan. Atmavaishirvidheyatma prasadamadiggachati. Kindly continue, Sumaji.
Yeah. Having given up all binding desires, that person who moves around, devoid of longing, without the sense of false I and mine, gains peace. In the verse 2.64 of the Gita, Bhagavan said, the essence of the present verse. When one is free from raga, like, and dvesha, dislike, even though the senses contact their objects, that person with a mastered mind and senses under control attains tranquility. Thus, for attaining peace, the requisites are sublimation of desires, which are bothersome and binding. The other harmless desires may be there, like even Bhagavan Ramana wanting to answer his devotees' questions. Another example of non-binding desire is, I would like to have idlis for breakfast. And when indeed puris are brought, the idli wanting person eats the puris happily, with neither a murmur in the mind, nor any longing for the idlis, and nor even any sense of loss. As long as the mind is, so long would desire sprout. It is the nature of the mind to desire, but the important thing is not to get bound by the desires. Just watch the desires fulfilled or otherwise. Secondly, the false sense of I-ness and also the sense of minus are required to be totally dropped by understanding their futility and also their obstructive nature in the path of progress for freedom. This condition is driven by a mastered mind and as a corollary with the supreme control of the sense organs. Bhagavan Ramana was an embodiment of the above lakshanas, which were very dear to him, and as such, the verse 8, chapter 2.7 was, you'll have to raise this. Could you please raise the page? So 2.71 was dear to. Yeah, you'll have to chant that.
Yeah, just 3, verse 17 and 18. यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यात् आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो नाकृते नेह कश्चन न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः.
For that person who would delight in the self, who is satisfied with the self, contented with the self alone, there is nothing to be done. For that person, there is indeed no purpose in doing nor not doing anything, nor does that person depend on anyone or anything whatsoever. Pursuit of any activity is always with a purpose in mind. It may be an accomplishment which is dear, a benefit much sought after, a recognition in the society, a kind of security, an insurance for food and shelter, taking care of a family, or someone dear, supporting some hapless, and such like. All these beneficial results render a person happy, and that is what anyone seeks with undertaking any task. However, that person who fully conforms to these two verses has no purpose in mind, and hence nothing is required to be done for him. Tasya karyam na vidyate. Karyam means Shastra Vihita Karma. That is a work which is ordained by the Shastra. And the Shastra is for the ignorant person. However, when one is happy with himself, by himself, and in himself, that one is said to have erased all ignorance. The Shastra has no purpose for such a person, and hence no karyam for that person. Not that the person does not do anything, but that person need not do anything for happiness, because that person rediscovered the happiness which is himself. Such a person does everything out of happiness, not for it. These verses, as though remind us of verse 7, chapter 2.2, Shloka 55. Bhagavan Ramana visibly demonstrated total adherence to the above two verses, which is dear to one, becomes the favorite of him.
Sorry, I muted. So that is from Dwichatvarimshat, verse 11, and from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 42. Indriyani Indriyani paranyahu Indriyabhyah param manah Manasastu para buddhihi Buddhe paratas Kshamyatam Manasastu para buddhi Buddhe paratastu saha. Kindly correct me if my pronunciation is mistaken.
They say that the sense organs are superior to the body, and the mind is superior to the sense. The intellect is superior to the mind is superior to the sense organs. The intellect is superior to the mind, whereas one superior to the intellect is he. This verse is an echo of the verses 1 to 3, 10, and 1.311 in the Kathopanishad, which reads thus.
This is from Kathopanishad. Indriyebhyah parahyardhan yardha. I don't think it is mine. I will. Indriyebhyah parahyardhan.
Can I chant?
Yeah, please, Brahmaraji, dhanyavad.
Indriyebhyah parahyardhah ardebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhihi buddheratma atma mahan parah. And mahatah param avyaktam avyaktat purushah parah purushanna parang kinchit sa kashta sa paragatihi.
The sense objects are superior to the senses. Mind is superior to the sense objects. The buddhi, intellect, is superior to the mind. And the mohat tattvam, total mind, and the mahat tattvam, total mind, is superior to the buddhi. Avyaktam.
Mahat tattva, mahat, I believe.
Oh, mahat tattvam. Okay. I'll repeat. The sense objects are superior to the senses. The mind is superior to the sense objects. The buddhi, the intellect, is superior to the mind. The mahat tattvam, total mind, is superior to the buddhi. Avyaktam, maya, is superior to the total mind. Purusha is superior to avyaktam. There is nothing superior to the Purusha. That is the end. That is the supreme. So maya is
Kshamyatam, could you please repeat? It is very important. We should understand this equation very well.
Yes. So the sense objects are superior to the senses. The mind is superior to the sense objects. The buddhi, the intellect, is superior to the mind. The mahat tattvam, the total mind, is superior to the buddhi. Avyaktam, which is maya, is superior to the total mind. Purusha is superior to avyaktam. There is nothing superior to the Purusha. That is the end. That is the most supreme. Mahat Tattvam.
Jai Gurudev, this total mind is the consciousness?
Even I was thinking that total mind is superior, but here it says Maya is superior to the total mind.
No, like after the intellect, that total mind, is it referred to that consciousness that we have, awareness? And after that, it is Maya. Is it so?
I thought so. I too thought total mind is.
I think this total mind is like one step before the Atma or Paramatma, which is that Samashti Buddhi, the sum total of all the minds together. But that is still one step below the Mahat, the Atma. I think when we go to Kathopanishad, that is, these different steps are there. But in one of the other shlokas, that is the previous shloka, Bhagavad Gita, where we were chanting, Indriyebhyah param manaha manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhev paratastu saha. So Bhagwan Krishna has just taken after buddhi, whatever is superior to buddhi is Atma. But here they've given in Kathopanishad, there are two more levels given, which is Mahat Buddhi as well as Maya.
So what is the thing of
clarified.
Mahat Buddhi?
Huh?
How do we recognize which is Mahat Buddhi? Maya we know, and
that is what. So if I remember what Nana had mentioned is that the sum total of all the minds, that becomes Mahat Buddhi. But that is still inferior to Maya, because Maya includes everything else.
So who will experience Mahat Buddhi? Only the enlightened? Because individuals cannot experience all the Buddhis. So who will experience Mahat?
I think, see, in levels of meditation, what I heard from another source is that when we meditate, there are different levels of the depth of meditation. You can just have a very superficial kind of meditation, but you can go deeper and deeper as well. So in the deeper layers of your meditation, when you experience that peace, that oneness that you experience, probably that is that Mahat Buddhi. Probably.
So isn't it that levels of awareness, like that the depth you feel?
Yeah,
it is that level of awareness which you have reached.
Yeah, could be different levels of awareness.
Because when you say a Mahan is an enlightened person, Mahat in what is that? Vigyan Bhairav, Gurudev talks about Mahat. I have to go back and refer to my notes where he goes like this step by step. If I think it was in Vigyan Bhairav 1, he says how you take one strand of hair and cut it into 100 and then 100, like that. He comes to Mahat. I'll go check that also. That is Mahat. So now, okay, we will have to ask Nanaji also about this Mahat.
See, for our understanding here, it only means that we have to go beyond Maya to experience that. Isn't it? So all these are inferior to ultimately the Paramatma. the one that is there. So for our understanding so far is fine, and we'll of course we'll clarify. You can check with your notes, and I will also check with Nana about this.
Because in Maya,
Ramanaji, this Purusha is Atma, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Purushanna paraha. So sa kashta parangati. So beyond that, there is nothing else. He is the one.
because Maya also there is three kinds, no? Yoga Maya, Mano Maya, and some other Maya. 3 Mayas are there. So you have to cross all that. So good to know, so that we'll recognize, okay, we are still here somewhere. Just an intellectual understanding, that's all. So avyaktam, Maya is superior to the total mind. Purusha is superior to avyaktam. There is nothing superior to the Purusha. That is the end. That is the most supreme. The body means the Sula Shariram, which is our physical body, consisting of the various organs like the heart, liver, kidneys, lungs, the bones, the muscles, the joints, etc. But without the following, the 5 karmendriyas, organs of action: Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upashantiti, Pancha Karmendriyani, the talking tongue, the hands, the feet, organs of excretion, organs of joy. So these 5 karmendriyas are the 5 energies. So it is not part of the body, though the action is carried out by the tongue and hands and feet and all that. Okay, understood that. The 5 pranas: prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana. The 5 jnanendriyas: Shrotram, Chakshushu, Spashanam cha, Rasanam,
Parshanancha, rasanam, ghranam evacha.
So 5 jnanendriyas. The ear,
This is
eyes,
like a recap of our Tattva Bodh.
Yeah.
All of this.
So the 5 are the ears, eyes, skin, tasting, tongue, and the nose. The antarkarana, mano, buddhi, ahankara, chittani, antakarnani, the mind, the buddhi or the intellect, the ahankara or the ego sense, and the memory. So these are the 4 antakarnas. Bhagavan says that the sense organs are superior to the body as above, and the body by itself is simply jadam, achetanam, meaning that it is not aware of itself. We can see the body, including the physical jnanendriyas, and we are also aware of the functioning of the pranas and the activities of the antarkarna too. But we cannot see the ear which can hear, the eye which can see, the sense of touch, etc. Not to speak of any of the antarkarna. The reason is that they are all subtler than the body, one subtler than the other. The verse indicates that the one subtler to the one anterior is superior. In our experience also, we find that among the 5 elements, one is subtler than the other. Thus, we can find that we only notionally see the space, whose beginning, middle, and end we simply do not know at all. While we can feel the touch of air and hear the gush of wind, even though we cannot see it. This shows that space among the 5 great elements is the subtlest and hence subtler than the air. Coming to fire, our experience is that we can see, hear, and also carefully touch. In respect to of water, we can observe that we can see, touch, hear, and taste. You have to raise this some more. And we have all the faculties working when we talk of the earth. We can see, touch, hear, taste, and also smell. The sense organs have evolved from the 5 primal elements. While the effects of the sense organs can be cognized, they indeed cannot be seen. Thus, the sense organs are superior to the visible elements. The sense objects, that is the Shabda, Sprasha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gantha, meaning the sound, heat, and cold, and also soft and hard. The form, the taste, and the smell are superior to the sense organs. Our experience is that our nose goes after the fragrance of the rose and not vice versa. That is because the one subtler has a compelling influence on the less subtle. A beautiful landscape does not go after the eyes. It is the eyes that keep passionately looking for the beauty of the landscape. Bhagavan says, even though the sense organs inferior to the sense objects are powerful and superior to the body, they are inferior to the mind, which is inferior to the buddhi or intellect, which is again inferior to him who is the most supreme. Bhagavan Ramana's intention in choosing this verse was perhaps to instill the commitment in us to go beyond the very intellect and try and find him who illumines the intellect. As such, the verse ought to be his favorite. Very beautiful.
So here it means that the sense organs are inferior to the sense objects, because it is the senses that go after the sense objects and not vice versa. Isn't it? Isn't that what the understanding is?
Yeah, even the Sharira is Thule, Jada eva, right? Same way objects are also Jad in themselves. The objects, when we see the flowers or whatever food, they are not the
Sense objects would be inferior, no? He was saying
inferior.
No, that is what he said. No,
that
he
is
says the fragrance will not go after the nose. It is the nose that goes after the fragrance. So it is.
No.
Objects are inferior, Brahmaraji.
Can you just read that one more time? Because in the beginning, I think it was read, the senses are inferior to the sense objects. If you can just go back and read the transliteration of the verse.
Here, yeah, Sumay.
Yeah, the sense objects are superior to the senses.
Yeah, so that means what? The senses are inferior to the sense objects, right? So what is external? The sense objects have an overpowering influence on us. It is the fragrance doesn't go after the nose goes after the fragrance, which is why the fragrance, the sense object, whatever that is giving that fragrance, that is superior to the nose. Similarly,
but if you read further, If you read further, he says the other way around.
Can you just read that? There was a little confusion there.
Yeah. So here he says sense objects are superior to the senses because they are attracting. The mind is superior to the sense objects because they can decide, the intellect, which is superior to the mind. And the Mahat Tattvam is superior to the Buddhi. But if you go down, so this is very clear, Maya is superior. Okay, that is very clear. But if you go down, go a little down, the body, Bhagavan says the sense organs are superior to the body as above. And the body by itself is Jadam, Achetanam, meaning that it is not aware of itself. The sense organs are superior to the body. Okay, understood that. Because body is Jatam and sense organs are superior to the body. We can see the body, including the physical jnanendriyas, which are also aware of the functioning of the pranas. We are also aware of the functioning of the pranas and the activities of the antarkarna too. But we cannot see the ear, which can hear, the eye, which can see, the sense of touch, etc. Not to speak of any of the antarkarna. The reason is that they are all subtler than the body, one subtler than the other. The verse indicates that the one subtler to the one anterior is superior. Okay, that's also clear. In our experience also, we find that among the 5 elements, one is subtler than the other. Thus, we can find that we only notionally see the space, whose beginning, middle, and end we simply cannot know at all. While we can feel the touch of air and hear the gush of wind, even though we cannot see it. This shows that space among the 5 great elements is the subtlest and hence subtler than the air. Coming to fire, our experience is that we can see, hear, and also carefully touch. In respect to water, we observe that we can see, touch, hear, and taste. And we have all the faculties working when we talk of the earth. We can see, touch, hear, taste, and also smell. The sense organs have evolved from the 5 primal elements. While the effects of the sense organs can be cognized, they indeed cannot be seen. Thus, the sense organs are superior to the visible elements, the sense objects, that is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha.
I think here it is given the opposite, which is why that led to the confusion. Because in the verse per se, it says the senses are inferior to the sense objects. But here in this explanation, it is said the senses are superior to the sense objects. So we need maybe a bit of clarification on this.
Yeah, but Nanaji has clarified beautifully if we read further. I think it is
let's go ahead.
clear.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
So the sense objects, that is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha, meaning the sound, heat and cold, and also soft and hard, the form, the taste and smell are superior to sense organs. Our experience is that our nose goes after the fragrance of the nose and not vice versa. That
fragrance
is because
of the rose. Kshamyatam, fragrance of the rose.
Fragrance of the rose. Our experience is that our nose goes after the fragrance of the rose and not vice versa. That is because the one subtler has a compelling influence on the one less subtle. A beautiful landscape does not go after the eyes. It is the eyes that keep passionately looking for the beauty of the landscape. Bhagavan says, even though the sense organs, inferior, see here he says inferior. The sense organs inferior to the sense objects are powerful and superior to the body. They are inferior to the mind, which is inferior to the buddhi or intellect, which is again inferior to him who is the most supreme.
This is the takeaway.
Yeah. Maybe there was a print mistake in that Tatparya.
Sorry. Oh.
Bella,
Brahmaraji
yeah, I've started sharing. So you
okay,
said you had to leave. 1 second.
Sumaji was reading, it was okay, Brahmaraji. Anyway, no problem.
This is where we are, right?
Little further down. Here.
Not this one, I think.
Not this one. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
So Bhagavan says, even though the sense organs inferior to the sense objects are powerful. So the sense organs inferior to the sense objects are powerful and superior to the body. They are inferior to the mind, which is inferior to the buddhi or intellect, which again is inferior to him who is the most supreme. Bhagavan Ramana's intention in choosing this verse was perhaps to instill the commitment in us to go beyond the very intellect and try and find him who illumines the intellect. As such, the verse ought to be his favorite.
So Purusha is the Ishvara mentioned in this.
Yeah. Purusha, Ishvara, Atma. That is all.
All same.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, verse 34.
Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam.
Having made the mind steady with the intellect, thus knowing that which is superior to the intellect, O mighty armed, destroy the enemy, which is in the form of desire, which is difficult to win. Arjuna, through the verse 3.36, asks Bhagavan thus, propelled by what a person commits sin, O Varshneya. Thereafter, Bhagavan spoke through 7 verses. In the opening verse, 3.37, Bhagavan said that the reason a person commits sin is karma or desire. In between, Bhagavan dwelt on how this karma is obscured and how it is difficult to understand. Bhagavan also mentioned that this karma is the greatest enemy of the wise and warned Arjuna of its ill effects. In this concluding verse of chapter 3, Bhagavan advised us through Arjuna to strive for a
Mano Naischalyam.
Mano Nishchalam.
Mano Naischalyam.
Mano Naischalyam, or steadfastness of the mind. With it, Buddhisthiratvam, or an intellect which is constantly engaged in the enquiry as to who is illumining it in order to destroy our enemy, which indeed is kama or desire, because Bhagavan Ramana, during his divine sojourn on this planet, was keen on all of us persistently inquiring about that which shines the intellect. Quite a few of his replies to queries culminated in advising the devotees to find out who was asking the question. This advice of Bhagavan to Arjuna touched him to the core, and hence the pick.
So beautiful, no? So any difficulty or any misery that we're going through, if we retrace the path of as to why it happened, why are we sad, why are we sorrowful, the answer comes to karma. Karma is the root cause. Karma, it could be a desire to protect your ego, it could be desire to be happy. Ultimately, it is that desire. Yeah, very beautiful. This one is because see, this is, I mean, these are the pointers where are important for us to do nididhyasana. You know, when asking who is this who's getting upset? Why am I upset? When you go back, you'll understand it is the desire. And then who is it who is illumining the very desire itself, who the desirer? Yeah.
The message of part 2, chapter 4, verse 19 from Bhagavad Gita.
This is verse 13 of the Dwichatvarimshat.
Yeah.
Yasya sarve samarambhaha. I'm just muting. I can hear an echo from my side. I'll just mute you, Suma. Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnanagnidagdha karmanam tamahu panditam buddhaha. Please
whose
unmute.
all works well undertaken and devoid of desire and its propellant sankalpa, whose karma phala is burnt away by the fire of knowledge. The wise call that person Pandita. It is common knowledge that it is not possible to take up any activity without a desire. This indeed is generated by a sankalpa, which is the forerunner and propeller of a desire. The sankalpa is nebulous, while the desire is concrete. When the desire gives the starting torque for any work, how is it that kama sankalpa varjitaha is mentioned in this verse? Would be the genuine doubt of the sadhaka. It should be understood that the jnani's desire is non-binding and also without any karma phala asakti, craving for the fruit of asakti, karma phala asakti. So craving for the fruit of action. The jnani's desire is just to do and not for gaining any fruit thereof. Bhagavan Ramana, of course, must have had a desire to answer the question of his devotee. However, it could not have been the concern of Bhagavan Ramana whether his answer hit the mark, no matter whether there was a benefit to the devotee or not. Bhagavan Ramana always excelled in his replies. Samarambaha. Same analogy can be, to raise the page.
The third line.
Third line, okay. No, Samaramba. Same analogy can be given of Bhagavan, who started teaching the Gita after Arjuna said, Shishyaha te aham, I am your disciple. That is on chapter 2.7. For this teaching, Bhagavan ought to have had a desire. However, after 17 chapters of profound teaching, covering the Sarva Upanishads, Saram, Bhagavan only said, do what you please. Yade chasti tada kuru. Yade chasi sada kuru. Tada kuru. Do what you
tada kuru.
Yade chasi tada kuru. Do what you please. That is chapter 18, 63 sloka. These activities of Bhagavan, Ramana and Bhagavan, and of many such like jnanis, clearly show that their karma, work or activity, was jnanagni dagdaha, burnt by the fire of knowledge. Continuing the jnani's desire, which is required for the relevant work, is like a burnt seed, dagda bijavat. Thus, the desire would be incapable of giving any fruit to the jnani. Like, even a burnt seed cannot sprout. The jnani understands that even though he is in the thick of work, he is not the doer, and also knows that his indriyas are the agents of all action. The wise say that such a person is a pandita. The Bhashyakara defines pandita thus: Panditatma Panda Atma Vishaya Jnanam. Panda Atma Vishaye Jnanam. Yasya
Atma Vishaye Jnanam Yasya Astiti Saha Panditaha.
That person who has direct Atma Jnanam is a Pandita. This fine verse naturally was a favorite of Bhagavan Ramana. Yeah, next verse, verse 14, chapter 4.22.
Yadrichalabha santushtaha dvandvatito vimatsaraha samasiddhava siddhau cha kritvapi na nibadhyate.
One who is fully satisfied with whatever unsought benefit occurs, who is beyond the influence of the pairs of opposites and is free from jealousy, equal with respect to results, such a one, even though doing, is not bound. Yadruchaha means by chance, unasked, unsought, and not planned for. Dvandva means the pairs of opposites like sukha dukkha, happiness, sorrow, labha nashta, gain, loss, janma mrityu, birth and death, mana apamana, praise and insult.
Apamana.
Sorry, mana apamana, praise and insult. Shitoshna, cold and heat, and the like. When one is contented with oneself and adheres to karma yoga, samatvam or equanimity, together with Ishwararpana and prasada buddhis, offering the result of all actions to the Lord and taking the results as prasadam from the Lord. Such a person has no craving for the results of action and hence is completely satisfied with whatever he or she gets out of such an action.
Bhagavan Ramana lived this verse, and as such, it was dear to him.
Yeah.
So verse 15 is from the chapter 4, the 37th verse. Yadhaidhamsi samidhogni bhasmasat kuruterjuna jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute tada.
Just
Can
as
I read, Suma? Should I continue?
yeah,
Yeah. Just as an intense fire reduces the samidhas, that is wood pieces, to ashes, so too the fire of knowledge reduces all karmas, karma phalas, to ashes. Samidhas are broken pieces of dry tree branches offered to the fire during a yaga or yajna. If the fire is brilliant, intense, and well maintained, then the samhitas will be reduced to ashes in no time. So too, if the Atma Jnana, self-knowledge acquired, is complete, there is no sense of craving, no sense of I-ness and minus, then such a fire of knowledge would burn away all karmas, actions, meaning all karma phalas, fruits of actions, and render them to ashes. Thus, the punya, merit, and papa, demerit or sin, does not accrue to such a karta, and so will not bind him at all. That is how Bhagavan Ramana lived, and hence he loved this verse. So going back to this, the last two verses, the verse 15 and 14, a jnani does work, but without the binding desire. He has a sankalpa to do, but he is not bound by the desire or the fruits of action, which is exactly why Bhagavan Ramana, when someone asked him a question, he would answer, but his desire was not to see whether that person got the answer, whether he understood it or not. He would just give the answer, similar to Bhagavan, who, after having described the whole Bhagavad Gita, giving the whole Bhagavad Gita, tells Arjuna, Yathechasi tatha kuru. Now I've done my bit. Now you do what you want to do. So even that they were the teachers of the highest order, in the sense that they gave knowledge, but they were not bound by the desire to see whether the student understood it in the way they wanted it or not. It all depended on the student's level capacity to understand. So therefore, the results that come off the papa or punya do not bind them. Like Dagda Bijavat, it is like their actions are like the burnt seed that does not sprout. And that happens with the fire of knowledge, the Atma Jnana. The more complete this Atma Jnana is, the more rooted you are. It's like the fire that's burning. The more the fire burns, the more the samhitas turn to ashes. If the fire is not so strong, strong and potent, then the samhitas are only half burnt. So very beautiful this thing is. Yeah.
It is like cleaning ourselves, cleaning the antakarna, so that the clarity of knowledge is there.
Correct.
And when clarity of knowledge is there, then you will be like become the supatra of receiving the higher knowledge.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, very right. Then see, all this becomes your experience, no? This akatritvam, non-doer, all this becomes part of it. And then you are in that space where you are in that highest level of the buddhi, where it is beyond the mind, beyond the sense objects, beyond the senses. You're in that state of mano naischalya. In that space, when we are exposing the buddhi to this knowledge, then just like how a clean mirror you can see your face clearly, this knowledge becomes clear to us. Verse 16, chapter 4, verse 39. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriyaha jnanam labdhva param shantim achirenadhigacchati. That person endowed with Shraddha, commitment, and mastery of the mind and senses will acquire Jnanam. After acquiring Jnanam, in no time that person will gain supreme peace. The requisites for acquiring Jnanam are Shraddha, commitment to Atma Vidya, and mastery of the mind and senses. So it's threefold: the Shraddha, commitment to Atma Vidya, and mastery of the mind and senses. Shraddha is Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasaha. That is a firm belief, pending inquiry in the teaching of the Guru and the teaching of the Upanishads. In respect of Atma Vidya, it is a commitment for rediscovery of the forgotten self. This is because the one seeking Atma Vidya is indeed Atma, and it is simply a matter of self-rediscovery. Mastery of the mind and senses is a prerequisite for Jnana Samuparjana, firm acquisition of knowledge. This is because knowledge can take place only in a pure mind, and the mind can be rendered pure by undertaking actions with Karma Yoga Bhavana, and thereby its mastery, and also by the control of the sense organs. After obtaining Jnanam, that person attains to Param Shanti, supreme peace, immediately thereafter. This is so because the Shanti shattering influences like craving, unfulfilled desires, agitations of the mind, running after the sense objects, the buffeting by the pairs of opposites, etc., are totally absent for such a person. And then Shanti in its glory reigns supreme. Bhagwan Ramana in his formative years in Arunachal must have struggled against tremendous odds to gain this Param Shanti, and as such this verse ought to be his very dear. I think the strain of knowledge is, we are able to see this with a little more clarity than the first reading, isn't it? So how each verse is linked to the other. So the three important things that are required for Jnanam are Shraddha, commitment to Atma Jnana or Atma Vidya, and the mastery of the mind and senses. And how do we live our life with having all these three? With a Karma Yoga Bhavana. So that helps us in gaining mastery and control over the sense organs. And once you get this Mano Naischalyam, which comes after practice of Karma Yoga with that attitude, then Jnana takes no time to make its presence. Achirenadhigacchati. That Param Shanti happens. Because then the Shanti shattering influences like what? Craving, Raga Dvesha, unfulfilled desires, agitations of the mind, running after sense objects, and being buffeted by the pairs of opposites. All that is totally absent. So none of those waves are disturbing you. So obviously there is that Param Shanti, and that is the one thing that reigns supreme. Verse 17, which is from the 5th chapter, verse 16. Jnane tu tadajnanam esham nashitam atmanaha tesham adityavat jnanam prakashayati tatparam, whose ajnanam, ignorance, is destroyed by the fire of own jnanam, that is Atma Vidya. For those, that jnanam, like even the sun, illumines the supreme Atma. When it is dark at night, without even the moonshine, one cannot see the objects. However, at daybreak, with the sun rising, one can easily perceive the objects. This we know is owing to the illumining effect of the sun, who, when rising, reveals everything to us. Bhagavan likened our ajnanam, ignorance of the self, to the darkness at night. As long as ajnanam persists, we cannot have Atma Darshanam, self-realization. But when once this ajnanam is destroyed by our own jnanam, that is knowledge of the self, then the very same jnanam reveals and illumines the supreme Atma to us. It is a revelation what is always by jnanam. Though we are free always, the impression we carry is that we are bound. Jnanam destroys this false impression and illumines what we really are. Bhagavan Ramana was always extolling jnanam and was an ardent advocate of self-inquiry. He had a direct experience of the immediate benefits of jnana and obviously liked this verse. Verse 18 from chapter 5, verse 26. Kama krodha viyuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from desire and anger, who are yatis, sannyasis, and have mastery of the mind, freedom or moksha is readily there because they have known the self. Moksha or freedom is complete unshackling from the wanting and limited person. All along, the false impression has been that one needs to do something to be successful, to be recognized, to be decorated, and thereby gain happiness. This to do is propelled by a desire, which when obstructed results in anger. In this connection, it is beneficial to recollect the verses 62 and 63 of chapter 2 Gita, which very methodically trace out the process of fall of a person starting from his sankalpa. The verses are Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammohaha Sammoha Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinashaha Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So how very beautifully the negative spiral is laid out by Bhagavan in chapter 2. So realizing the futility of desire and its derivative, anger, the sannyasi who is committed to the benefit of everyone and who has sublimated the sense of I-ness and minus and who has complete mastery of the mind gives up by proper understanding this pair of kama krodha, desire, anger. Such a person attains to Brahma Nirvanam, moksha here and now, because that person has dropped all binding fetters in the path of self-realization or knowledge of the self. Only a person like Bhagavan Ramana, who trekked successfully the difficult path for Atma Sakshatkaram, self-realization, would know how important are the means for that end. And for such an exemplary person, this verse would indeed be very dear. So more than to do, we have to let go. The mantra is to let go. Let go of these binding fetters. Let go of this want to do things in order to gain happiness. Shall we move forward? Is there anyone who wants to say anything? We've done, I think, 5. We've done covered almost 10 verses today.
It's like a necessity based living we should be in.
Yeah. Need-based living.
Yeah.
So indebted to these teachers who have given us this profound knowledge. I'm just wondering where would we have been if we did not have this knowledge? No? This is one grounding factor in our lives that actually keeps you grounded, keeps you centered. One may have a lot of emotional, intellectual quotient. IQ is very, very high, but without EQ and SQ, which is spiritual quotient and emotional quotient, he would be a no, because he'll be tossed and turned over by his own desires, failures, and successes. But it is this spiritual quotient which we get from this, from the Shastras that keep us grounded. That is why the Shraddha is so important. Shraddha, commitment to Atma Vidya, and mastery of the mind and senses. Verse 19, chapter 5, verse 28. Yatendriyamano buddhihi munirmokshaparayanaha vigate cha bhaya krodaha yassada mukta eva saha. One who has mastered the senses, the mind and intellect, who is intensely committed to moksha, freedom, one who is free from desire, fear, and anger, such a person is always liberated. Bhagavan, through the verse preceding this and this verse, has clearly spelled out the means to the end, which is freedom. The need for Dhamma, mastery of the senses, Shama, mastery of the mind, and also an intellect, which is at all times committed to self-enquiry in order to attain the desired objective of moksha, is emphasized through this verse. So the need for Dhamma, Shama, and also an intellect which is at all times committed to self-enquiry in order to attain the desired objective of moksha is emphasized. Besides the above, the other requisites are freedom from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always endowed with all the means outlined as above is considered as a mukta purusha, a liberated person. While desire and anger were covered by Bhagavan in the verses preceding this, he especially mentioned bhaya or fear. Now he especially mentioned bhaya or fear. The reason is that the one aspiring for freedom shall grow to that stage when that person does not see anything other than Atma. In such a person's vision, there is no second thing or being. Anything other than you tend to fear. To annihilate fear, the Ekatma Darshanam is a prerequisite. And hence Bhagavan so beautifully mentioned the need for getting rid of fear. This is what Nana explained yesterday so beautifully, the Ekatma Bhava, right? So when you have that, everything is nothing but Atma. Everything in the world that we see is a product of Maya, which is Brahmashraya Maya. So there is nothing apart from Brahma or Atma. Then there is no distinction, you see. Everything is one. You see yourself in everything, whether chara or achara, whether it's movable or immovable. So when that is there is no question of you getting fear. Fear happens only when there is a second. Dvitiyad bhayam bhavati. That is, I think, from one of the Upanishads we read earlier, right?
Yeah, he also mentioned that you have to live with wisdom.
Yeah.
In relation to, like, if it is related to these ferocious animals, in regarding to that, or maybe in regard to like people also, that you have to have that wisdom. It's not that you be in fear and you are you think that that person may harm you and you do not do anything. You have your wisdom, but you should not fear.
Which is true. That is why in Taitra Upanishad it says, Bhishasmad vataf pavate, Bhishodeti suryaha, Bhishasmad agnischendrasya. It is out of fear that even the wind blows. It is out of that fear that the sun moves around, the sun shines. And it's out of fear that the sun rises and sets. So that little fear, it is like how Gurudev explains, our fear should be as salt in food. Just that little bit of fear in order to preserve this body. Otherwise, you can go around saying, I am supposed to be fearless. So in order to preserve this body, you need that little bit of fear in order to sustain the creation as it is. Although at the time of self-realization, that even that little fear is gone, completely gone. Even that deha buddhi is gone, completely. Which is why Ramana Maharshi was able to get his surgery done without anesthesia.
And also these Buddhist monks, how they tame the lions. We have seen many videos, no? So they don't show any sense of fear inside, and how they tame these lions and keep them.
Yeah.
I was just relating to that also.
Yeah, it is. I think in one of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, one of the aspects, I think, there is no violence that happens with the person who's practicing. There is one of those in the Ashtanga Yoga. If you practice this, there is no violence. I'm not able to get what that is. So that Gurudev, there was a story of where his car was stopped and there was this terrorist who came up, and everybody else in the car was fear. They were scared, but Gurudev said, no, let's stop the car. And he got out of the car, and this person who actually wanted to harm Gurudev and everybody else dropped his weapon. The similar thing happened in New York, I think, in one of the satsangs, where a huge, tall, black person got up and he was like, coming towards Gurudev at the stage. But then that violence transformed into tears when he came near him. So, ahimsa, the person who's practicing ahimsa, there is no himsa that can happen around him.
But the example of Mahatma Gandhi, how he died, he practiced ahimsa, but he had a very lethal death type, not like very.
It is,
merciful.
that is, it is said that he was not very, he practiced ahimsa towards everybody else, but not to his body and his own family. That is what was the
Yes. There was no alignment in his thinking, feeling, speech, and action. Integrity was missing.
yeah.
Very correct.
So with respect to his family, apparently there was no, he didn't include his family in that. See, unlike Gurudev, if you look at him, he's all inclusive. He's not left anybody out. He said, even Gurudev had mentioned several times that a sannyasi sometimes, when he takes to sannyas, he doesn't even look at his mother. He says, what Papa has that mother done? Poor mother who's given birth to him. You know, there are some schools of thought where sannyasis, once they take to sannyasa, are supposed to sever the connection with their biological family, which is you know, it seems very cruel when you look at it. So how can you remove that family from everyone? If you have this, if you want this ekatma darshanam, isn't your mother part of that? So taking it in a broader sense with a big mind, you include everyone, which Mahatma Gandhi apparently did not do. So therefore, there was so much of himsa around his death. So the term Purusha mentioned in the Shastra, like the Upanishads and the Gita, means a person and not just a male. Purau ushati iti Purushaha. One who dwells in the city is Purusha. The city has 9 gates as per the Gita, chapter 5, verse 13, and 11 gates as per the Kathopanishad. The city is the body. The body is likened to a city because a lot of things and beings reside there, and there is a continuous flow of traffic. The gates are 2 eyes plus 2 ears plus 2 nostrils plus mouth plus genitals plus anus, thus equaling a total of 9. The additional gates that the Kathopanishad talks of are the navel and the Brahmarandram. This can be seen vibrating on the center of the skull in newborn babies. Both the male and the female abound in all the above gates, and as such Purusha, like in the term Mukta Purusha, means a person and not, as generally mistaken, a male. Bhagavan Ramana was a classic example of putting the gist of this verse into practice and deriving immense benefit thereof. Was it not natural for him to select this verse as a part of Dwichatvarimshat? So Purusha means Purau Ushati iti Purushaha. Verse 20, 21 are from chapter 6, 25 and 26 verses. Shanai Shanai Ruparamid Buddhya Dhruti Gruhitaya Atma Samstham Manah Kritva Nakinchidapi Chintayet. Slowly, gradually, endowed with a discerning intellect, one ought to strive for Atma, the self, dedicating the mind for the steadfast pursuit of Atma. One shall not think of any other. Yato yato nischarati manaschanchalamastiram tatas tatah niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. For whatever reason, wherever the fickle and unsteady mind goes, from there and there, bringing it back, lead it towards the pursuit of Atma. The mind is unsteady, fickle, and unpredictable. The mind again can be violent and rash. Such a mind must be treated like even how a rogue horse is trained. One must be gentle in dealing with the mind and it should be made to believe that its owner wishes hitam, benefit or good for it. Then also there is every possibility that it will simply run away from what you have chosen for it. The mind needs to be handled very gently. That is why Bhagwan mentioned Shanaihi Shanaihi, meaning slowly, gently, gradually, and softly, and train it to understand that you are the well-meaning master for it. Such a mind can still be a rogue and run away from your chosen task, which is the pursuit of Atma for the mind. Whenever, for whatever reason, and wherever the mind runs away, very lovingly bring it back and employ it in your chosen task. The task is self-inquiry, culminating in Atma Jnanam or self-knowledge. This is the business of the intellect, which is required to be steady, discerning, and discriminating. The mind must be made to revel in the thoughts of Atma. This is a tricky problem. It is the mind, sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha, that which thinks of something and in no time thinks of something, some other thing always, which you are training to do your job. So this is a tricky problem. It is the mind which you are training to do your job, but it is the unsteady mind which can think any thought, including your chosen Atma-related thought. Besides this, when you say you train the mind, the question is, who is that you? Is it not your mind? Here, the intellect, nischayatmika buddhi, that which firmly decides after proper discrimination, takes over. And it is not just the mind. What is the difference between this mind and buddhi? The you which trains the mind is your intellect, and you must befriend it very nicely and lovingly. It is like saying that the mind is the thief and also the police. The thief mind must be caught by the police mind. That is why Bhagwan said, Buddhya dhriti gruhitaya, meaning with the intellect, with a firm conviction that Atma Chintana and commitment towards it are a must for the progress of a sadhaka. The police mind is the intellect, and that is your treasure. Employ it to employ the mind in the right direction, the direction of Atma, your real self. In this connection, it is good to recollect a verse from the Vedanta Panchadashi by Swami Vidyaranya. Part of the verse in short says, Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhayaha, meaning wherever and wherever the mind goes, there and there see the samavastu, which is Atma. You think of something and the very thought is Atma. Whatever object the mind thinks of, that object is Atma. Thus, substitute any thought with the thought of Atma, and then you are always with Atma. To be able to do this, one needs to have some idea of Atma. This, of course, requires knowledge of some pointers to Atma. The seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad beautifully portrays Atma thus. Nanta prajnam na bahir prajnam no bhayata prajnam na pragnana ghanam na prajnam na prajnam na prajnam adrishtam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyapadeshyam ekatma pratyaya saram prapanchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vigneyaha. not the inner awareness, not the outer awareness, not the awareness of both, not the nebulous awareness, not awareness, not that it is not awareness, unseen, not possible to relate to anything, ungraspable, without attributes, not possible to think, not describable, the essence of experiences. In that, the universe subsides. That is peace. That is auspicious. And none like it, considered to be the fourth. That is Atma. That is to be known. In the meaning of the mantra, awareness is used in the sense of Chetana, a meaning for Prajna. In short, what all notions about Atma that we have, Atma is not any of those. What all we know is through avidya or ignorance. That which is the very knowledge principle, Atma, how can it be available to avidya and its byproduct of mere words? How can that, which is the very basis of thought, be thought of? The Mandukya mantra sets the mind thinking intensely about Atma. And that is what is meant by Atma Samstam Manah Kritva. This couplet of verses is so rich in meanings and ideas that it enticed Bhagwan Ramana into favoring them. I think we'll stop here today. If anyone wants to share anything, this thing is so very profound. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhaya. So wherever the mind is going, there you let it go. But see Atma Tattvam there. And what is the Atma Tattvam is so beautifully expounded by the Mandukya Upanishad. Whatever you can think of is not Atma, because any thought is a product of avidya. How intense it is, no? All the notions that we have of Atma, Atma is none of them.
Dr. Brahmra, can you ask Nanaji, like, if he must be having some PDF of Mandukya Upanishad, so that maybe we can study, because it is a very short one.
Yeah.
What I searched, I read it, not complete still, but I was preferring that if it is some other author. So
yeah, I think Swami Chinmayananda has given, he's given a talk of Mandukya Upanishad, but I'll check with Nana whether he has that.
if we can get some PDF on it, so that
Yeah,
we can print it out here.
You know, this verse, just by chanting it, takes you to a different state altogether. Just imagine if we were to live it and, you know, experience it, recognize it.
Brahmradi, could we have the PDF of what we are discussing today?
It's already there. It's already posted several days back. We're doing a revision of this.
Okay.
This is done. It was, if you can go back on the messages, it's there. I think almost 10 days back or so we posted it.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, it is there, and it's also emailed to everyone. So you can check your mail as well. So we'll
What was it that Nanaji was saying, that to sent the PDF? He was asking you.
I sent both. I sent them in the group. I didn't email them still. One is about in response to Suma's question about what is
awareness and consciousness.
that who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I think that's about 4 or 5 pages. I think what we'll do is after we finish this revision of the Dwichatvarimshat, we'll read that.
Yeah.
And
it is, I think, 8 pages. What I remember.
Maybe it's 8 pages. I didn't go through that. And then the other one was the Gita Dhyanam, which is
Gita Dhyan, right.
meaning of all the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. It's just the meaning without the Sanskrit verses, which is what Nana said we can do after we've finished one round of the Gita home study. After we finish 18 chapters, we can run through that once.
You have posted it on the group, I think.
Group. Yes, in the group.
It has all the meanings, right? That is the
Shamyata.
Yeah.
Ramanaji, could you please chant that fourth one, the shloka Pragyan wala ek baar, please?
I'll chant this.
Sorry, it is late, but
No
I
problem.
want to have that.
Nanta prajnam, no bahir prajnam, no bhayata prajnam, na prajnana ghanam, na prajnam, na aprajnam, adrishtam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, achintyam, avyapadeshyam, ekatma pratyayasaram, prapanchopashamam, shantam, shivam, advaitam, chaturdham manyante, sa atma, sa vigneyaha.
Dhanyavad. So beautiful to revel today.
So we'll close today and we'll meet up tomorrow. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Before we close, I thought we'll just run through. I know we're doing this after we've chanted, but then the whole train of thought today was about how to get to the Atma Vidya. He started off with karma as the first, is the root cause, and how karma leads to this downfall of the negative spiral. Dhyayato Vishayat Pumsaha. He says, and he gave the example of how a jnani, although he does have a sankalpa, he has a desire, it is a non-binding desire. And like Dagda Bijavat, whatever actions he does do not result in a fruit, papa or punya, unlike an ajnani. And then he gives the three prerequisites for gaining this state, for to become a jnani, is to have shraddha in the shastra, to have commitment to Atma Vidya, and a mastery of the mind and senses. And then how do we master the mind and senses? Shanaihi Shanai, little by little, slowly and slowly, gradually, befriend the mind, and very lovingly with the buddhi. It is the polis mind, which is the buddhi, and the thief mind, which is the mind, which is the unsteady mind that runs after the sense objects. So the polis mind has to very lovingly, gradually, slowly, and surely, with steadfastness, keep it under control. And then yatra yatra manoyati, wherever the mind goes, tatra tatra samadhaya, bring the Atma Vastu there. Think of the Atma Vastu. And what is the Atma Vastu? Is so beautifully propounded by the Mandukya Upanishad, this verse that was chanted. So let's just revel in all of this rest of today, and self-inquiry is our mantra. Come back to self-inquiry again and again. Yeah. Jai Gurudev.